why we're talking about it today. The thing is, reforms are still underway, and that triggers quite a few things related to the reform of the forestry. Within this process, we often hear about certification, but mostly they talk about number of certificates issued for timber supplies, for instance. But we understand that FSC certification is not about number of certificates issued. It's about responsible work for unlocking creative potential of every worker in their workplace. It's a decent salary. It's taken into account the interests of local communities, cultural production, and the path to the EU. Reforms are still underway, but there's still a long way to go to turn the forestry sector is better integrated to the EU. Now, how can we capitalize on or unlock the entire potential of FSC certification in order to reach the balance of social sphere, economic sphere, etc., and to ensure that balance is stable? Today, within our roundtable discussion, we will discuss how we can use the tools available from FSC in order to conduct reforms successfully. We will also learn from experience of Baltic states, and representatives from these states will speak to us today. And in this roundtable discussion, we will discuss these issues. We will also talk about available opportunities in order to involve stakeholders in order to unlock the full potential of FSC certification. So these are the issues we're going to discuss today, and mostly we will talk about three topics: reforms of certification, second, experience of reforms, and the impact that certification did in the Baltic states, and involvement of stakeholders to the certification process. Most of our participants will be presenting online, and in order to ensure good balanced discussion, traditionally we ask Oleg Paniuta, a journalist, moderator, to hold our discussion. Please. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to be a part of your professional community. And this is my modest contribution to the transformation of the forestry system. But I'm interested in what's happening, of course, because we as Ukrainians, citizens of Ukraine, we understand that as Ukraine is being transformed, the process is currently underway despite the ongoing war. But despite the war, we still want to change this country for the best. And today we will discuss three areas or three topics. And we have some participants here present physically in this room, as well as people who joined us online. We encourage everyone to be active, take the floor, make comments, ask questions. Please read to us in the chat. I would ask everyone to speak for around 5 minutes, and we have to finish by 12 noon. So why don't we start with the first topic? That today we are going through the third stage of the forestry reform. It changes Ліси України structure. As a result, a public joint stock company will be formed. Two-thirds of forests in Ukraine, because there are private forests, there are also belong to local communities. What will be their destiny? Will this reform trigger changes in those communities as well? So why don't we talk about this and whether this will make any difference? And we would like to ask head of the Forestry Department and Renewal Department, Mr. Rudzinski. Thank you, Oleg. I'd like to thank all the participants thanks for the opportunity to participate today in this important discussion. I hope that today's discussion will lead to positive results in the transformation of our forestries. Now, regarding the reforms, indeed, Ukraine, as you know, is currently going through the process of transformation related to Ukraine's accession to the EU. Despite challenges of the war, we're not slowing down. Because that would be a setback. It's not easy, and not everything goes very well. In fact, it's a lengthy process. It takes time and effort. And first and foremost, we need to transform the consciousness of people, their mindsets, especially within the forestry industry. Why we took this path? Well, of course, the reforms started before the war in 2021. The first steps were made back then. We analyzed many different processes in the EU. We analyzed experience of many countries. We analyzed the path they took and how they achieved what they have achieved. We chose our own path, which isn't 100% copy of any other country. You cannot just copy and paste what was done in Poland, Germany, or some other countries in the EU. We need to take into account the environmental, climatic conditions that are unique to Ukraine. Therefore, we took the path of creating larger companies. And in fact, a joint stock company was formed based on those larger state-owned companies. And as a result, Ліси України, Forests of Ukraine, company was formed as a joint stock company based on decision of the government of Ukraine There's Resolution 1003, and based on that resolution, Forests of Ukraine company was formed. And of course, we are not only concerned by forests owned by this company, which accounts for about 73% of forests, but that leaves quite a large chunk of forests owned by communal companies, some other ministries, and also a pressing issue of forests that are currently being leased. And there's this phenomenon in Ukraine called independent forests. Having researched some satellite data, and we found that around 1.9 hectares are the spontaneous forests, and we are now considering how we can confirm their status. Of course, consciousness of people, their mindset within the forestry industry is important, but that also includes rank-and-file citizens from local communities, people who live nearby, people who work there, people who use those forests, because it's not just, forest mushrooms and berries and timber. It's also ecosystems created by forests. And this gives us ground to state that certification of forests is like a hallmark, a confirmation of quality of how forests are being managed in a sustainable manner. So reforms and transformations are still underway. Not everything goes very well. There are some issues. We do find some challenges. However, I'm sure we can overcome these issues. And if we start communicating to stakeholders, we can always arrive at some decisions that will satisfy everyone. So we remain open to dialogue with all participants, and we hope that Ukraine will take an important spot within the EU nations as far as forestry is concerned. So this wraps up my presentation. I wish you successful work today, and should you have some questions, please feel free to approach me. Are there any questions to the presenter based on the information that he presented? Feel free to ask your questions either orally or in the chat. Well, if I may, I'd like to ask a question. Strategically speaking, what is the time frame for achieving our goals? Is it 5 years, 10 years? I mean, there should be some time limit somewhere. Yes, indeed, we do have some schedule which was enshrined in the state strategy of forests in Ukraine. It covers the period until 2035. It features certain goals. And today, creation of this company, joint stock company, it's a public company. The process need to follow next year. Needs to be completed next year. And after that, the state, the government, will have to make decisions about the remaining, the balance of forests that are not in the ownership of this public joint stock company. So that is the goal. Within the next year, we will have to transform and finalize the formation of the company. Of course, our great value is the people, of course, who work in the forestry. And life during change is discomfortable. And I know that preserving experts in Ukraine is one of the key tasks. What do you do to help people? Yes, indeed, you're right. It's all about the staff, the workers who support the forestries, and we meet with people, we talk to people, we communicate to them, we explain to them what our goals are. People need to understand what they're doing, what the goals are, what the plans are, because otherwise, when people are unaware of what's happening, this creates discomfort. So, indeed, this is our prime task. We have a question from Mr. Volosenchuk. Please go ahead. Roman Volosenchuk, head of the National Working Group to develop FSC standards. Ihar, I have a question regarding the so-called independent forests. Indeed, quite a large part of it are on private land. What is the position of the government if you move it from private property to the state property, or are those forests going to remain in private property? Well, private property in Ukraine is protected by the Constitution of Ukraine, and of course it covers the land ownership. And if someone owns a land, no one can make a decision about what they can do about that land. And indeed, we have quite a few land masses that have wild forests growing on them, and the owner of that land will have to make a decision. We cannot affect their decisions, except perhaps communicating to them the importance of preserving forests. And indeed, there are bills being elaborated in order to stimulate preservation of forests. Some fiscal tools could be used to do that, because to a rank-and-file person, fiscal tools will make a big difference. Plus the mindset, of course. But it takes time to change people's mindsets. Therefore, we are not considering transferring private property to state property. We now have online Director of Department of Forest of Ukraine, Viktor Bushkov, and he can talk to us right now. Greetings, Viktor. We would like you to focus your attention on the fact that most FSC certified forests are currently on the books of Forests of Ukraine. How do you feel the importance of these advantages of this certification to the forests that you manage? How do you see the growth of your company in the FSC certification context?
Good afternoon once again. About certification, we have a lot of people who work with our resources. Unfortunately, very bad quality of sound. We are also transferring to European standards. Our wood processing companies export wood to other countries, and this definition that all the products and materials were produced according to FSC standards. For us, the objective is to have 69 up to 70%. Also, we plan to expand the size of our forests, and every year we invest into this as a minimum 2% per year. We are trying to add every year, and according to the requirements of the Ministry of Economy, our program has national strategy, meets the national strategy till 2035, and also we plan to certify 10% of our forests within 10 years, which we're going to do gradually in a systemic manner. Victor, what is your vision of benefits from certification of Ukrainian forests? What does it give us? It's not carte blanche. No. I'd like you to pay attention to this. What benefit will Ukraine get from this? For us, it's also a proof that we manage our lands in a systemic way, openly, and it's like a quality assurance system. Shows that we have to check ourselves. Additionally, there are some independent bodies which check us, and also permanent improvements which are going to take place. So for us, it's yet another additional instrument of control and auditing and the system of quality assurance. Can we say that Ukraine, following the FSC certification, is going on the way of civilized use of forests? But is this process quick? The mentality of people also has to change. How this will impact the psychology of people? Yes, I 100% agree. Even more, currently requirements to the quality to certification to management system have been raised to new levels. I mean that besides certification, the UDR European Directive is going to wait for us, to which not all in Europe have been prepared. You know, it was postponed for a year, but the system of certification will be a tool which would help to improve the management system and quality assurance, as well as new challenges related to digitalization of this industry and this sector, which will add additional transparency and help to fulfill additional requirements which will be coming. The war in Ukraine, how does it impact the process of certification? How can it change the process of certification, postpone it, or our task is to follow this way anyway? We have 100% plan on what forest will certify additionally, but unfortunately more than 25% are currently forests which are occupied, to which we have no access currently. And there are also some portions of forests which are mined heavily, and we would not be able to do anything over there until the full demining has been completed. Unfortunately, we'll still have certain challenges and problems even after the forests are deoccupied. The question from Yuri Yuh, please ask your question. No, just to signal that I'm connected. That's it. Thank you, thank you. Are there any questions to Victor? If there are any, let us know. I know that Director General of Forests of Ukraine is connected, and we would like to offer you an opportunity to speak. Good morning, dear participants. I'm on the road, on my way. Do you hear me well? Yes, I'm very pleased to participate in this important meeting. And concerning certification, a lot has been said. I'll try to avoid repetition, but our objective as the biggest user in Ukraine, one of the biggest users in Europe, is to be certified 100%. As Victor said, it's absolutely realistic task for us. But even now, we are the third in the world. Ahead of us are only Turkey and Sweden. I would like to thank Pavlo and the whole team of certifiers who are engaged into this business in Ukraine for understanding and very constructive approach to our reorganization, recertifying, and this work has almost been completed. Currently, we have just few enterprises which we still have to certify for some technical reasons, but in any case, we managed to do this very quickly. I would like to emphasize that I see certain issues related to understanding and to the philosophy of how people see the issue of certification, because the majority of our partners regard this as a necessity, which allows them to get value added to their produce. Unfortunately, no sound. Yes, now we hear you. So the overwhelming majority of our partners regard this as a necessity for forest of Ukraine, which allows them to get additional value added to their produce. In fact, it's different thing, and this concerns both parties, both the forests of Ukraine and clients. We have enterprises which have been certified. I think that we have to do more explanatory work, educating people, explaining them what is certification. And speaking about certification of other users of forests, it's another important issue because we must understand that forests of Ukraine, it's about 70% of our forests, and one third of forests are other users, and these forests are not separated. They're just located 3 meters from our forests. So if we standardize these processes according to FSC on our territories, we may not guarantee what would be going on the adjacent territories, which also may become a problem. Here it was mentioned EUDR. I would say that we are the best prepared to EUDR because of our reforms and new tools introduced, electronic ticket electronic certificate, necessary gadgets, which the forest rangers have in order to establish coordinates and so on and so forth. So, but it's very important to work on self-sown forests, which because the more than 12 million hectares of forests we have in Ukraine, but unfortunately these territories do not have owners, or they are self-sown forests. These unique environmental ecosystems, which were created exclusively by the nature, not by people. So we have to work hard on these forests, and that would be a very rational approach and would be a big contribution into biodiversity and preservation of forests, not only in Ukraine, but all over the world. Thank you. Thank you for connecting with us, and thank you for the topic which you mentioned. And this is one of the questions which wanted to ask Igor about. That is about taking the state strategy and covering it to the other forest users which do not belong to the sphere of the state forest agents, because you are the major user in Ukraine. Yes, according to the legislation, we are the authority, the body which is to implement the forestry policy. According to the legislation, the state agency has a right, I would emphasize this, to get from all forest users relevant information about their activities in the forests. Unfortunately, this right has not been fully realized because there are no serious instruments of leverage. Some users are ready to provide information, the others don't want to give information. But in the process of reforming the country, this will be one of the objectives to transform the distribution of authority between the central executive authorities and Ukraine, and to divide and distribute instruments of leverage, influence other users, so that there would be uniform rules for all users of forests, both for communal, national, private, and public enterprises. One of the steps on our way would be introducing in the experimental way the electronic woodcutting ticket, and the state agency provides this document to all forest users for all types or kinds of wood cutting. So this is the first step on the way of the implementation of the national policy for all forest users. Another steps would be related to the issue of control, monitoring of the division of authority, and measures of supervision. So we are moving forward, and I hope that the state forestry agency will have all the necessary tools which would allow us to have sustainable management of forests all over the country. Thank you. I would like to ask Yuri, because in our discussion we mentioned wood processors as a partner. So the question to him about the use of certification, FSC certification in Ukraine, and how this impacts that industry, and what are expectations of the industry of further implementation of this certification. Thank you for the floor. I'm sincerely happy to meet with you. Unfortunately, I cannot join you physically because I'm in Brussels on business discussing trade and economic limitations concerning the upgrading relations with the European Union or improving our trade. What I want to say is that currently the issue of FSC economic, environmental, social values are very closely interrelated. They cannot be divided. Why it is so important? According to the recent statistics, but recently Forbes made public the recent research, and where the information about how much wood processed and furniture is exported by Ukraine, who are the biggest exporters of this produce. Not many of those companies, the top 5 companies, they are exporters into the European Union. Pivoriunas, Knudsen, and important others. And here it is important to understand that the end users of this wood produce are European consumers, who that way pays attention to the official information about the products. No sound, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we have problems with communication. Now we hear you again. So the issue of FSC certification, on the one hand, it's clear that it's the voluntary system, but we must understand very clearly that Ukraine, the Ukrainian economy in many senses is not competitive because of the war, because we have a huge amount of logistics problems. That's why the decision of the government to increase the FSC certification is extremely important. It's very important to be certified. Those who saw forests, who process wood, and so on. We all saw at the beginning of the year this importance. As soon as they begin having problems with certification, the whole change Aidas. So that's extremely important. And also the question was asked, FSC echoes the new European regulations. This is in UGR and others, the limitations. But the key with them is first to prove due diligence and legality of origin of the wood. With this, we have to work a lot, very seriously have to work, because the last month, in terms of blocking exports of ready-made products and the border with the EU, there were various reasons, but the key was that the issue of documentation of due diligence and legality of origin of the wood.
If in the near future we do not solve this problem and do not establish the logistical chain, we will have big problems, especially in small and medium business, who don't have much staff to work with documents. Not everyone understands that yet, but yesterday the EU Parliament discussed this, because Europe will, based on different criteria, will bring everything to single standard. Those who are selling to the EU will have to be meet integrity standards. It has to have confirmation of legality, and FSC is going to promote values. All key successful companies understand that you have to certify the entire chain, including processors of timber. It's a voluntary standard. And if something drops out, it leads to economic disaster. And I'd like to stress that. Thank you for emphasizing the importance of this aspect, and the reform of the forestry entail this important element as well, and Mr. Buzinski mentioned this too. And I was glad to hear that when you said that we're not going to copy and paste someone else's experience. Indeed, Ukraine needs to take into account all the aspects, all the nuances and unique features, including climate, geography, etc. I'm convinced that you are taking into account all other nations And we are learning from their best examples of reforms of their forestry sectors. And in the past, Baltic states went through this process, and now we have Aidas Pivoriunas, who is a project manager, who is also a member of Association of Private Forest Owners in the Baltic states, and I know that his nation went through his interesting path. So I'd like to ask Mr. Aidas to share his recommendations, his view on how Lithuania covered this path and what Ukraine could learn from your experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good day to everyone from Ukraine. I'm more than happy to have a chance to present in a couple of minutes what Lithuania has been going through starting from 2017. Let me try to share the screen. Just a second. And please tell me if you see the presentation.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So the impact of FSC certification in some forest-related reforms in Lithuania. Let me start from this, that in 2017, by a pure coincidence, there have been three very important and big processes starting to kick off. So the first one is the development of the FSC Forest Stewardship standard for Lithuania, the national one. Before that, in Lithuania, we were operating according to the standards that have been developed by the certification bodies. You know that globally, FSC was going, and still in some places is going through the transition period where the previously known standards of certification bodies are transformed or modernized, developed by FSC, and they are becoming the national ones, and the certification bodies who operate in a specific country, they assess then the requirements of forest stewardship according to one forest stewardship standard. So this process, second one, is very much related with politicians. In 2016, the government and the parliament that has been newly elected decided that time has arrived to transform the public forest management system from going from 42 state forest enterprises as independent small medium enterprises that were operating on a regional level into one company having now 26 regional directorates. So the idea was that instead of 42 independent, we are going to have one public forest management company. Also, in 2017, there was the idea that let's try in Lithuania to create the FSC group certification scheme specifically designed for Lithuanian small private forest owners. So by chance, I was very heavily involved in first and the third processes of those. However, since I was not still working for the public forest sector, I had nothing to do with the process of the public forest management company reform. All right, let me summarize, if I may, what happened since 2017s or maybe after 2020s, when 3 of those processes have been completed. From the perspective of FSC certification, there is no surprise that something around 2018s, 2019s, in the Eastern Central European part of forests and timber industries, the market started to react on FSC products by offering price premiums. This trend is still keeping the level, and sometimes it causes some problems for countries, for example, the ones who are in a scarce resources of timber, roundwood products. Sometimes it causes a very good revenues for public forest managers and private forest owners. And it might seem that we are maybe somehow dysfunctioned from other countries, but in European Union, in Lithuania, we are very much connected with it's a common space for trade of goods and services. So if there is a demand, for example, in Latvia, for FSC wood, then Lithuanians are quite flexibly reacting into this, and they are exporting the wood to Latvia or to Poland or vice versa. So it gave a very big effect, the price premiums on FSC development in Lithuania, and still is a very big factor. The second, I should say, that effect was that the Western European markets started to demand the FSC products to a level that the public institutions, governmental institutions, started also to ask in the public procurement processes for certified products in case products are going to be purchased for public sector. FSC is an important factor here. The new standard introduced the concept of protecting high conservation values. And also what was new for us is that we have introduced also the cultural values of high conservation as the concept that is going in parallel with environmental values. That has been taken by a standard on another level, I should say, and that is applicable for public and private forests now. Another important factor was introduced, that with the new standard, the certificate holders of FSC are now required to change the attitude on local communities and how the decision-making of daily forest management is going to affect the neighboring ones who are living close by the forests is very much reflected in the content of the standard. And it's not anymore that someone at the ministry or someone at the forest management organization is deciding what to harvest and what to not to harvest and where to replant and a forest, but rather there is a continuous dialogue platform established with local communities. So I think that is an important factor as one of the major ones that brought a positive change. Also ensuring wages and especially the focus on health and safety. In Lithuania, we are having the situation out in the forests that not always health and safety is very well managed, and we have the rate of death cases out in the forestry which is not satisfactory. There has been a study made 1.5 years ago, and it discovered that the certified forests, they are not that bad in health and safety issues compared to the non-certified forests. So I think that step by step we are bringing also some modern and civilized way of behavior out in the forest when it comes to health and safety. And last but not the least, we have found out also that the traditional forest stewardship standard, the implementation as alpha and omega of the daily work of forest managers out in the woods when it comes to implementing the FSC requirements, is becoming not enough. And that's why the ecosystem services appear. First, claims of ecosystem services in biodiversity and water are appearing, and also non-timber forest products. This and TFPs means non-timber forest products. We have been working on trying to show that forest is not only wood and biodiversity, but it produces honey, for example, or sap, etc. That could be FSC sold on the market. So these were the very new things. Let me move into the section of key takeaways, and maybe this could be some kind of brainstorming for you, dear friends and colleagues from Ukraine. What and where to take a close attention in FSC related forest stewardship affairs. So, as the previous prelegant was, to my mind, very rightly pointing out, what is the most important thing within FSC is the balance of socially responsible and economically viable and environmentally friendly forest stewardship. It is not a very easy task to complement, and it is sometimes we are in a constant conflict between those three values of the forest as such, as ecosystem, as complex, as the gift from the Mother God and Mother Nature. So, and the the human who is trying to balance. So it's us, it's foresters. It's a very big task. Ecosystem services, I think this is the future. It goes as additional service, but I think that the ones, especially in bringing back, showing to wider public, how forests are rich in terms of producing air, water, protecting culture, storing carbon, cleaning and developing soil, providing recreational services. To my mind, those kind of services are helping to balance the three above mentioned factors of stewardship. I was mentioning non-timber forest products. Yes, it is a possibility, and to my mind, in Lithuania, it gave an impulse. There is some kind of a momentum in public and private forests to deep dive in showing the non-timber forest products claimed by FSC. Why not to think about it in Ukraine? Now, some tips and tricks that, to my mind, could be important for you, and these are the things that I have learned myself when being with FSC and working in implementing the standards and acting as this forest steward. I would very much encourage to be proactive. Please do not wait before something happens, but if you have some questions when it comes to FSC requirements implementation, please inform FSC very well in advance. And these could be the cases of land conversion, for example, number of forest management units. It is, maybe this sounds very technical, but please be aware that FSC people, although they are very much pro-Ukrainian and they understand the context the country and the foresters currently are experiencing, but it's only Ukrainians that should inform the detailedness of the context. So I would say that it very much depends on the successful implementation of FSC requirements if the right information is coming from the country towards FSC. The same is applicable to certification bodies. And here we are having, maybe some could say that even the strange obstacle with certification bodies. So these are the ones who are doing the audits in the woods and in the organizations, checking the verification of requirements. But for example, in France, there is a very big potential for certification. The problem is that the certification bodies or the auditors should conduct the audits in French. It's a must. There are not so many auditors in the world that speak French, and that is the obstacle of the certification. So maybe it could be in some other countries, I know the cases that additional to the local language, another language, for example, English, could be equally introduced. That could help very much to implement. Yes, I have heard several times today people were saying about EUDR. We know that in the European Commission, there is now a slight shift from Green Deal towards the omnibus process, which means that more sustainability and more economic competitiveness But these are also very hard to implement concepts. And nevertheless, although the omnibus concept is going to be imposed, nobody postponed EUDR. So European Union Directive for Deforestation, as the EUDR says, means that in European Union, in the countries nearby and in global scale, none of the product that is coming from deforested areas is going to enter the market. That is why I was mentioning the logic behind the conversion. For example, we are going to have a lot of also inlands tough moments with the conversion of forests into military polygons. This is happening now in the eastern and northern part of Europe. So EUDR is also going to be in this respect affecting us. Please take care about this very seriously. And yeah, my last maybe words is that the standard, when it is nicely implemented, could really open the doors. But sometimes, since there is a very big demand in the market for this, it could close the doors too. So I would very much encourage you to be well prepared and be very careful. Yes, so this is it. Would be more than happy to answer to your questions if there are. And maybe I will.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and the participants, if you have questions, please write them in the chat. And now I'm going to give the floor to the FSC manager in Poland, Pani Karolina Timorek. Pani Karolina, I would like to hear from you recommendations and maybe your advice to Ukraine on what efficient processes you observe in Polish forestry, which Ukraine might use in its own transformation processes.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me quite well. Right. My name is Karolina Timorek. Since 8 years, I have been country director, FSC country director in Poland. I'm based in Warsaw. I'm super happy to be here today with you all, and I'm sending you warm greetings from my nation. Regarding experience, FSC experience in Poland. First of all, well, let me just give you an overview. I'm sure many of you know at least to some extent, the Polish forestry sector. But I think it's important to understand what is the FSC role. It is important to also understand the structure of forestry sector. In Poland, we have almost the same, a little bit less, the forest area as Ukraine. So it's over 9 million hectares. And 77% of all forests in the country are managed by one organization, Polish State Forest, which is in Polish Lasy Państwowe. These forests belong to state treasury. So one organization, Polish State Forest, is managing the 77% of all forests in Poland. And this organization is under the Ministry of Climate and Environment. So this is also our key stakeholder for FSC. And I have to also mention that Polish state forests were one of the first in the world to implement FSC standards, because the first FSC standard in Poland was issued in 1996. So it's almost 30 years ago, and it was one of the regional directorates of state forests. So last year, Polish state forests were celebrating 100 years of existence. So they were established 100 years ago, and FSC has been part of their forest management for 30 years. So we have a very long and close relationship with ups and downs, I have to be honest with you, but currently we have very good relation, and the state forests are, let's say, after some break, coming back to FSC certification, and I will give you some more information in a minute. As my colleague Aidas mentioned already, it is what is a key, let's say, what is a key for us as FSC, but this is also a key target for the foresters in Poland, especially the state forest, is to achieve the balance between social, economic, and environmental functions of forests. And in Poland, based on the Forestry Act, we have multifunctional forest management in place, and it has been like that for many, many years. But I have to tell you, even though we don't have forestry reforms like in Ukraine or in the past in Lithuania, since approximately a year, we have a very hot topic and a public discussion about the future of forest management. And there are, and this is already recognized by the government and by the state forests, that the expectations of the society towards forest management are growing. People want to have an impact on forest management, and it's, of course, local communities, but also general public. So the foresters are becoming more and more aware of the need of looking for this balance, and to pay more attention to the needs of the society, but also to the needs of the nature conservation, and of course how to adapt forest management to climate change, other environmental changes, and the social changes as well. And this is how FSC can actually help. What is currently happening in our forestry in Poland? Our new government that was established over a year ago has declared and still stick to this plan to designate 20% of Polish forests, all Polish forests, as a kind of protected forests. It was not clarified what does it mean, this protection, where it would be a strict protection, partial protection, or what kind of protection. This is still under discussion, and this is under discussion with many stakeholder groups, but there are some first initiatives taken by the ministry and by the state forest, and some examples of these initiatives are designating what is called social forests near the major cities in Poland. Of course, and this is designated by the state forest, but in a dialogue with local communities. It's also better protection of old growth forests. And also recently State Forest announced that they would like to, or they are planning to designate 17% of forests as protected, and this is divided into those forests where would be no commercial activities, and forests where commercial activities would be allowed, but the forest management would be modified to consider the social and nature conservation needs to a higher extent. So there are changes happening right now in forestry in Poland, and the direction is while keeping the production function of forests, because this is also crucial for our timber industry, at the same time to strengthen the environmental and social function of forests. And here comes FSC. As I mentioned, we are not new in Poland. We have been in place for 30 years. Currently, out of these 9 million hectares that we have in Poland, 37% is FSC certified, and more regional directorates of state forests are applying for FSC certification. We have the system, the organization of state forests. I think to some extent it is similar to what you will have in Ukraine. So we have the General Directorate of State Forest. Then we have regional directorates, 17 of them, and they can apply to be certificate holders. And under the regional directorates, we have forest management units, which are in Polish, I think it's similar to Ukrainian, it's called nadleśnictwa. So the regional directorates can be the certificate holders, basically. And what are the benefits? Why the state forests are applying for FSC certification, or any other forest managers would like to apply for the FSC certification? It is what Aidas has mentioned. So it is helping to keep the balance, because in our standard for Poland, we have a lot of requirements regarding the environmental values, but also the social requirements, like what was mentioned, health and safety provisions, also a fair wage for forest workers, and the dialogue with the local communities. So it is already there. And what is also worth to mention, and what was highlighted also by the state forests, is that FSC certification can help, and I think this is what can be really crucial in Ukraine as well, help forest managers to keep transparency of forest management, because the summaries of the reports from audits are published online, so are publicly available for everyone. Moreover, as the only system of this kind, we have what we call an institution of observer. So interested stakeholders can apply to be observers during audits in forests. And this can help forest managers to keep the transparency. And of course, what was already mentioned by one of the speakers, it is confirmation of the quality, it's quality assurance. So it can also help the forest managers to strengthen, to increase the trust from the society and the reputation of forest managers. And of course, it is a very important tool to keep the high competitiveness and to access markets. And this has been many times highlighted by Polish timber industry, whether it was furniture industry, paper industry. It is a very important competitive advantage if you have FSC certification. So yeah, if you would like, of course, to get some more information on FSC in Poland, I welcome any questions, and I of course welcome you to contact me in case you would like to know more. Thank you very much.
Пані Кароліно, дякую щиро за ваш виступ.
Thank you very much, Karolina. I offer our participants to ask questions to our European colleagues if you have. My question is to Aidas. Do you see the ideal format of 100% certified forests, or in percentage ratio between public and private forests? Whether is there any optimal percentage of certification? What do you think? Will this impact the quality of forest management in your country?
For the question, if I understood it right, I would think that the worst would be to have 100% of certified forests, because we have to remember that certification is a voluntary process. 100% would mean that there is some kind of a force, and the force usually is not a free will. So I would say, let's say, very close to 100, but not 100. When it comes to private and public forests, it's always the big brother, which is the public forest management, who is leading all the processes. And I would be very much surprised if the forest certification, because the certification brings value to the processes, is higher in private forests than in public forests. This would mean that private forest sector is more flexible, is more future-oriented, is modernized. So I would guess that the good sign of good public forest management is to have a higher rate of certified forests than private ones, because also that the public forest is having much more on its shoulders when it comes to the public. These are the forests that are owned by every single citizen of the country, and the forests are always dedicating themselves to high and additional values. It's not only the monetary green capital. It's also it's the production of the living environment, and in very many cases, the public forests are freely accessible to from the public. Private forests, however, sometimes could be not allowing the visitors to be entered. So, yeah, these are the differences, I would guess.
Пане Айдасе, дякую вам за відповідь. Пані Кароліно, до вас запитання.
Thank you, Mr. Aidas. Ms. Carolina, the format of protected forests, do you think this formula should have FSC certification? Is it mandatory, or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you. I guess you mean this 20% of forest that government decided is to designate with some kind of protection. It's hard to say right now what exactly will be counted in. So because it's still under discussion. But yes, protected forest can be FSC certified. There are examples in the world where national parks are certified. I think it's from our perspective of FSC, basically where there are no private forests certified in Poland. There are many reasons for this, but it would be really difficult to certify private forests, to be honest, because of the structure of them. But regarding the state forests, of course, this 20% that was declared by the government will impact mostly the state forests holding. But I think that when it happens, I don't think, and it will be like a partial protection or modified forest management in some parts of the forests, I don't think it would have a negative impact. I think FSC certification can actually help to meet this goal and to help to meet the expectations regarding from the society, because we have already in place a lot of provisions about setting aside some areas, designating preference areas, designating biogroups on the clear cuts, etc. So I believe FSC certification can actually support forest managers in meeting those new goals, new initiatives that are taken by the government. I don't think it would be an obstacle. But the certification is about the Regional Directorate of State Forests. So if part of the Regional Directorate will be protected, or the forest management will be modified because it will be taken into consideration for this 20% of forests that governments wants to protect, I think it's not a problem, because FSC is not only on production forests. It can be implemented on also other forest types. We have, as I mentioned, multifunctional forest management in Poland, and I don't think it will change. For now, it looks like it will be still kept. However, there will be some forests, and this is already happening, like with, for example, close to big cities. Some forests that one function, let's say social function, for example, there will be more stress on that particular function than other two functions, let's say. But this is still ongoing discussion with involvement of many stakeholder groups. So it's hard to predict how it will end up. What foresters are saying is that they recognize the growing expectations from the society, and they say they cannot pretend it's not happening. They want to find this balance, and I think FSC can only help. Thank you.
Дякую, пані Кароліна. Спасибі за вашу відповідь.
Thank you, Carolina. Mr. Aidas, did you want to add something? Okay, go ahead.
I forgot to mention, sorry for this, my apologies, that in Lithuania, out of 2 million hectares of forests, 1.3 million are FSC certified. It's 300,000 hectares in private forests and a bit over than 1 million in public forests. Thank you.
Тобто це понад половина, це 65%, це майже 2/3 лісового масиву.
So it's 65%, almost 2/3.
Непогана цифра.
That's a good figure.
Дякую, пане Айдасе. Спасибі велике.
Thank you, Mr. Aidas. Thank you very much. And now we're switching to the third topic. FSC has been in Ukraine for quite a long time, and we would like to see how FSC can give all the benefits of FSC certification and how we can help changes in the forestry relying on FSC. Gentlemen, what are your vision on this? Thank you. Indeed, it is time to start our third topic, which deals with the following. How all stakeholders, starting from the forest rangers and up to the managers at the top level, can improve forestry using the tools that we have available today. Now, I'd like to... Could you please tell me if we can do the online demonstration, or shall I share my screen? How can we make sure that everyone can see what I'm showing? I will ask the engineers now what... there it is. It's right on the screen right now. What about online participants? Can they see it too? Good. All right, colleagues. Presentation is about openness and transparency of procedures. procedures of certification in decision-making processes. This is a well-known schematic on how certification works when we talk about the chain from forest to consumer. Everything starts in the forestry when independent evaluation of the forestry standards is carried out, and Ukraine has its own national standard, of course. Now, after this, all the produce that comes from the forest, and not only timber, it reaches the wood processors, and after that, eventually, it reaches the consumer, and the consumer, seeing FSC certification, the consumer, in buying those products, votes for FSC certification, responsible treatment of forests, forest conservation, and improving the production culture, etc. We focus on the work carried out by forest rangers, and the compliance is done by independent evaluators. But the question is, can we also involve other representatives, starting from rank-and-file citizens to NGOs, in order to affect decisions, finishing to the standard of management. Now, the whole process starts, of course, with the standard and the implementation of standards. The standard requirements means that the forestry needs to inform the stakeholders and the community. And Aidas did mention that local communities, in line with national standards, have the right to vote. That they can express their comments, their wishes, and this is the first step of where community voice must be heard. Second stage is the evaluation, and the auditor would visit the company, and he will study and evaluate the situation. He will talk to NGOs, trade unions, to see to what degree they are satisfied. Next step involves procedures of challenging decisions. Of course, we understand that because there are so many interests to be taken into account, and there could be conflicts, and if there are disputes, there needs to be a way to settle disputes. Involving various organizations and entities. The next step up is where various representatives of entities and activists can involve in the process of standard development. In Ukraine, we right now have a working group whose mission it is to develop standards, but the working group doors are open to public representatives, NGOs, rank-and-file citizens who can come and express their views, and in this way the legal framework can be adopted. The highest level that is currently open to nations, that is creation of advisory committee, which gives additional information, and the highest level is, of course, FSC membership. In line with our rules, and this is, of course, FSC is a membership-based organization, anyone can become a member, and all strategic decisions for the organization are to be formed at this level. If we want to involve all stakeholders, in this photo, for example, you can see how we discuss standards. We have a designated page on our website where we explain how we involve stakeholders. We have guidebooks on development of standards. We conduct workshops, trainings to involve stakeholders. Next, evaluation by certification bodies. This was also mentioned in her presentation by Caroline. Well, first of all, we have a website where audits are listed, and you can check and see which company will be audited when. Also, all public reports of those audits are posted there. The procedure of how audits are conducted are also listed there, and community representatives can join the auditors to see what's happening in the forest. This improves trust and fosters transparency. And independent observers can show that they are working openly in a transparent manner, and they can be proud of what they do. We also conduct working meetings involving certification bodies and other stakeholders. Speaking of dispute settlement, there are tools available that Ukrainian participants can use. For example, there is a way to register incidents, and here you can see the statistics of ASI registered incidents. And the mechanism works, and any stakeholder can open ASI website and see how the system is working. You can post a complaint, even anonymously. Regarding the Standard Development Working Group, the working group dates back to 2017. In 2019, the group for FSC standard development was formed. In 2024, the standard was updated, and the update included territories that are polluted and mined due to war hostilities. And we're also considering other recommendations. Regarding partnership, this is our advisory committee that you can see on the photograph. They conduct on-site sessions and visiting sites involving stakeholders, talking to local communities, which fosters partnership and deeper understanding of FSC values.
And the highest level of engagement into decision-making in our organization is membership. I'm very happy. And I respect very much our international members. There are 3 in Ukraine. And the membership is open for any citizen of Ukraine who would support our values and ready to work. But also this could be legal entities as well. As a conclusion, I should say there are all the necessary tools. They are on the table in the toolbox that you may use them. Let's say that reform, which is going on, is enriched with the FSC instruments and tools which provide for the balance and interaction of all the stakeholders. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Now I can give the floor for online presentation to Dmytro Haravchuk, who is the Executive Director of Forestcom. How do you see the impact of FSC certification and the forestry sector in Ukraine?
Пане Дмитре, мікрофон, будь ласка, не
Microphone is off.
Так, вітаю всіх колеги. Дякую за можливість долучитися.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to participate in this important discussion, because I believe that FSC is the additional instrument which is accessible to every active citizen who wants to preserve the forest or promote the better management, because we want to see the culture, the European culture, which we respect and which we want to implement more and more in our country. And this is also about the forestry sector. And it's very good that there is such an instrument which allows active people to participate in these processes, to make the impact on them. I will give you an example. Our non-governmental organization.
Підкажіть, будь ласка, чи видно мою презентацію?
Do you see my presentation? Yes, we see it.
Отже, хто ж ми такі?
So what are we? We are the non-governmental organization, the Forestcom, And our mission is to take care of nature, to preserve ecosystems and other environmental values. We have 19 members, plus about 100 of various experts who engage in various projects. One of the biggest our projects, which concerns introduction of best practices into the forestry forest management. It was the project supported by the U.S. Forestry Service that is fighting against illegal wood cutting. And I'd like to draw attention of the state forest agency to analytical reports which we published on the amount of illegal wood cutting on the territory of Ukraine. And I think there is no other analytical report of such scale, and I would like to draw attention of the State Forestry Agency to such reports and to make their own reports like this, because it's very important to understand situation in the country, in all the forests, not only those which belong to State Forest Agency. I want to say that for more than 5 years of existence of our NGO, in the framework of this project, and the project aimed at meeting the conditions of EUTR and EUDR, we made more than 90 expert conclusions, which were initiated by law enforcement authorities, first of all the Customs Office, and the results of the work of this NGO may be used further on next year, first of all, because it goes about implementation of EUDR. Over the last 5 years, our organization monitored forests. So we monitored more than 4 million hectares in a distance in the remote mode. We monitored officially adopted ancient forests of Carpathians, more than 10,000 hectares were physically monitored, more than 250 inspections to forests, more than 80 cases of illegal wood cutting were identified, and 55 criminal cases were opened on the basis of these reports. Also, more than 400 other violations and offenses in forests were identified, and which was the loss for more than 40 million hryvnias for Ukrainian budget. One of the recent examples of our cooperation with concerning FSC certification during examining one of the forests, the violation of law was identified, was detected, where there were crossings across the mountain rivers were not established, on the basis of which we made a report based on FSC practices. And as we see in March, together with the auditors from NEPCOM, preferred by nature, the fulfillment of our requirements was identified, and the bridges across the river were established. So in one place there was a bridge, in another place there was a ford. I should say that there is such a scheme of certification, and it is functional. and we have made sure that this works. So thank you for your attention. Thank you very much for your presentation, dear participants. We may have about 10 minutes for our fruitful work. If you want to ask questions, please put your questions. Vice President of the Kingdom of Ukraine. Pretty soon we're going to have Scandinavian platform in Carpathian region, and we will discuss the future of Ukraine, including the green restoration of Ukraine. I represent energy, and for our restoration we need forests as well. So I would like to establish contacts with you on this topic. Thank you very much. Thank you for the proposal. Any more questions? Maybe you have. Maybe there is somebody who wants to ask questions. My name is Elena Pidin from Ukraine Forum. The question to Pavlo. You said that figures are not that important, but still like to know more about them. Last summer, we met and we talked about certificates. You said then that in Ukraine, about 47% of forests are certified. What's the situation now? Bearing in mind that we had recertification and the reorganization of forests of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I would like, first of all, to emphasize that hectares are important, but they are important in a sense that behind these hectares we should see real deeds. I mean, those improvements which were demonstrated by Dmytro in his presentation. So we would like to have more of this, both in public sense, in communication with colleagues, so that we have more information on positive examples on the work of forest people, auditors or stakeholders, which allow to realize the potential, because sometimes we forget about the main objective. For us, the most important thing is not just figures in hectares, but something which proves that we are moving in the right direction. And the hectares just tell us how much of the forest economy we have covered. And now I'm going to tell you the following. As of 26th of March, that is today, 4,440,000 hectares have been certified, which makes up about 46% of all forests in Ukraine. I mean both public, communal, state, communal, and private ones. You may have a look, you may find it on our site. I'm looking at the map which you opened, and I see the direct correlation between the geographic location of forests, that is west and the center of the country, are under more positive influence of certification, but the north and east and south, where they're closer to war, it's more difficult. It's a very good question. Yes, there are some factors which do not allow us to cover the eastern and southern regions with certification process. First of all, it's about war, because according to official data, about 1 million hectares of forests have been occupied. about 500,000 more, about 500,000 more are those which have been liberated, but they are heavily mined, or they have a high risk for human life and health. So when we discussed in 2022 whether there will be certification after the full-fledged aggression or not, the decision was taken where territory was identified as the zone of military conflict, we froze the certification, and when the territory was not subject to direct impact of military activities, certification could be continued. And the second factor is that we understand that it may be possible that things which we have not realized in the area of ecosystem services, well, we're speaking not just about timber, but about other services related to forestry. This gives us an opportunities which Aidas told us about in his presentation. This may give us further push forward, give us more momentum for the development of forestry. And this is the development on which we can work for the future. And then that part of forest would be certified. And one more thing, with implementation of the renovated standard, there is a possibility for those companies which are in part situated on the clean territories and in part are mined, we may speak about the territories which have been strewn with mines, for them not to be under the direct influence of this forest management. But we say that a lot of serious work should be done before that. And this work should be done. I have a question from our participants online. Maybe you will say something about whether is it planned to develop a manual, to write a manual for private forest owner. I would like to clarify what manual is meant, because in our system of forestry we have various manuals. For example, manual for forest rangers, how to behave, how to protect forests, how to take decisions, and so on. There are manuals for forest firefighters, how to act in case of the wild forest fire. I will say whether the state should try to educate the private owner of the forest. I think it is true the state should do this. And besides the State Forest Agency, we should have partners among the higher educational institutions, because they could organize, for example, special courses or trainings for members of the public. Yes, our forest managers do this work, working at so-called school forest companies. So we have a network of such forest teams where children during out-of-class activities learn how to behave, how to deal with the forest. So they are just given the examples of the culture in the forest, and children, when they come home, they tell their parents about all these issues. So this way, indirectly, we also impact the citizens. Yes, it would be nice to have a manual, but we need more concrete, more specific thing. Which manual? Yes, sometimes we may license sort of minor activities, but the forests, they make a global influence on the society. And as a person who has the 5 hectares of agricultural territory which has been self-sown, and there are plants growing there, and I should use it as I want. Isn't it possible that the state should implement specific responsible activities towards these people, for people not to think that everything is allowed? Yes, this issue is in the agenda because people must understand the role of the forests on their territories, on their plots of land. Yes, there is a need to work on this. There is a question from wood processing company Tsunami about legality. When can we expect for access to GPS coordinates of the wood timber plots where the wood is cut? Yes, this process is now at the active stage, and the technical issue has remained. This is the purely information technologies issue. The decision has been taken, and some clarification has to be made concerning the regulatory base. But anyway, we offered such a position that in the register of electronic tickets, these coordinates be indicated.
The issue is still under control. We're working on this, and our IT experts are now finalizing their work. I hope that within the next month, this opportunity, this option becomes available. Dear participants, I suggest we summarize and wrap up our discussion today. I'd like to give the floor to you, Mihailo, to summarize. Thank you. Indeed, colleagues, we worked for 2 hours quite effectively, and I think we can single out a few takeaways. Indeed, we can see and feel that people are not indifferent to FSC certification. People care, they take active interest, and this concerns both forest rangers and the companies, the management companies, and it's important to position themselves correctly in the market, and we believe this stimulates civilized development of the forestry sector, paving the way to Ukraine's EU membership. What I also heard today is that FSC certification is an additional way of taking your forestry up to a new level, and it is our duty to increase the percentage of certified forests, but the issue of quality remains very important for us, and representatives of local community need to be involved and understand the importance of implementing their interests. It is very important that from the State Forestry of Forestry and Forest Resources, now the forest sector in Ukraine is being reformed in order to unlock its full potential. We still have to take care of forests that are currently owned by communities, so-called communal ownership, but work is underway. We heard very good and very insightful presentations of our colleagues from Lithuania and Poland. We hope to hear more presentations from our colleagues from abroad, and we will see how forests of Ukraine will improve and be taken up to a new level of management and conservation. I believe we heard some interesting ideas about where Ukraine and how Ukraine can plan the development of its forestry sector, and we shared our experiences. So in summary, I think the sector, the industry is developing, the reform is underway, and we must get involved as actively as possible. FSC stands by Ukraine. We remain active. We conduct a whole range of events in order to achieve the balance of interests. From me personally, I'd like to thank Oleg Paniuta, our moderator, participants present in this room, and of course all the participants who joined us online. This wraps up our meeting. Thank you very much, and thank you, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Доброго дня. Питання. У нас величезна скандинавська платформа. У нас там буде питання, можна розкажу? Щодо агронаселення. Гідроенерго, сирота, Доня Козаченко. Все до того йде. Я займаюся соціальною адаптацією військовослужбовців. У нас автономність. Автономна генерація, золота сила, тобто у нас є вода, енергетика.